G'day, listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by our major sponsor, supshq.com.au. Use code BENS15 at checkout to receive 15% off on your next purchase. G'day, listeners, and welcome back to a very special episode joined by a very special guest friend. I want to say we're colleagues for a period of time, or at least work-related colleagues. I'm joined by a very special guest. I can't even hype him up any more than I'm going to, but the current IBO Super Welterweight Champion, Dennis the Hurricane Hogan. My friend, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks, Ben. I've been looking forward to this podcast for many years. When we used to speak in Nutrition Warehouse, sometimes I go in, I'd be there for an hour chatting to you about nutrition and all things life and personal development. So it's finally, anyway, we'll have a recording of one of our chats. So that'll be good.
There was definitely some nuggets and some golden points that just never got heard by anyone else in those chats in store. I remember just to give everyone a quick sort of background. So I was Dennis's, I guess you would say, I don't even know what you would call it, touch point, if you will, for Nutrition Warehouse. So we were associated through supplementation and nutrition as one of his sponsors, and we met many years ago now. I think it was about 2019 we just established. And around that time, Dennis was more than on the way up into where he is now, but we're gonna explore that in a little bit. But basically, the reason why we've asked Dennis to come on, we've had hundreds of chats in and around store. We've talked many times through Instagram, Facebook. We've talked many things about his career, training, nutrition, his performance and mindset around his fights. And to be honest, I think all of that is beneficial to everyone who's going to listen to this chat. So, I mean, there's no one better to learn or understand high performance from than someone who's literally at the top of the world game. So, mate, basically get us started. Give us a bit of a background as to what got you into boxing, sustaining boxing, being able to go through the ups and downs of the different federations and the fighting world and kind of the wins and losses.
Well, look, I started. I say a funny thing is that I don't remember life without boxing. So, which means I started boxing. I went to the gym with my grandfather from the age of 5 to 6. My mom used to work nights, and he brought me along with all my other cousins. So, I literally was in the boxing gym with my grandfather, the coach, from 5 or 6. I had my first underage fight at 8. Had my first competitive fight at 11, and boxed right through for 160, in around 160 amateur fights as an amateur, and boxing for Ireland about 20 times. And then I went professional at 26 years of age, and I'm now 38 and boxing as a pro for 12 years. So it's been all boxing, and that's so I don't remember. A lot of people come to boxing because they get bullied and for other certain reasons, like for defense and stuff, but I suppose I was lucky in a way that I just was born into it. Boxing is very much in my blood. So it's just one of those things that I tended to be, because I started so early as well, I tended to be very good at it. And it sort of worked well with me too, because I wasn't very academic in school, and I don't think the audio, more so audio, but slightly visual style of learning suited me also. So I didn't feel like I excelled all that much, but for everything that I was feeling, lack of self-worth in school itself, I was certainly getting in the boxing gym, and the success that I seen as a kid and onwards was very fulfilling to me, and maybe that's a reason why I kept going back. And it's always been one of those things in my life where even if I went off it for a while, I'd find my way back there. Whether that be to de-stress, whether that be to start eating healthy again, to start losing a bit of weight again, whatever it was, I always found myself, even in hard times, I used to find myself back at the gym. And that's nearly been my life story till I decided to go pro and go all in 12 years ago. So that's what boxing was for me. Certainly is a passion, a love, and everything else to me. Look, I mean, my amateur career, I also was a carpenter, so I was 10 years as a carpenter, got my qualifications as a carpenter. So that was one of those things where, I remember when the championships would come up as an amateur, I would be running the roads at 6 o'clock in the morning, just to, and it'd be still dark in Ireland, and just to go training or go work in my 10-hour days, and then come back and go training at 7:30. I'd probably be getting into bed about 10:30, only to be getting up again at 5:30. So that was some of the life I used to live until I decided that I would make it my full career and finally be paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to put all that energy that I was putting into my other life as an hammer and carpenter into my full pro career. And when I finally went all in, things really started to work out for me, as you know. And so, yeah, if there's any more on that you want me to elaborate, I will. But there's that, yeah.
Wait, that's
get us started at least.
It's a starting point, and we can unpack about 40 different points in that. I guess my first question, because you are as we can tell in the accent, an Irishman, and you're an Irishman Aussie, as you've claimed many times, as your kids are also Aussies. Like, you've got family over here, you've raised your family here. Is the fight game, is the fight world, or just fighting that sort of like I guess that hard knock sort of lifestyle of an Irishman, is that in the blood over there? Is that just something like you're going to be born with, or is it like you were just lucky to be around it at the right time in the early age?
Well, look, I mean, I remember as a kid, I don't know, but in Ireland when I grew up, it was completely different now. It was even different, but like, before I left Ireland, which was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when we grew up as kids, where I was friendly with and where I would go around in the town that I grew up in, you turn a corner, you could be in a fight at any second.
Yeah.
Not that people would actively just jump you, but they'd be looking to start a fight. And well, I tended to be one of those guys who probably would engage more often than not, unless I sensed real danger. But that was probably because I didn't give it its full credit really as a kid. Being a boxer, it was like I had that sort of. I felt very comfortable in those situations,
mm-hmm.
a lot more comfortable than the other people, I presume. But that's the way it was in Ireland. I feel like it's changed a lot now. It's not like that as much as it used to be. The way people would start on each other and everything was just something that I grew up with. So it sort of bode well for me that I was good at boxing. Yeah, I mean, and that was it then. And that was, but in Ireland also, I will say that a lot of, nearly everybody would have tried their hand at boxing at one point. All my friends at some point would have went down to the boxing gym and put on gloves, laced up, and threw a few digs here or there. So everyone can sort of fight anyway. So you're better off knowing a bit about it anyway.
Better off to know than not know.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it like, because I remember like our old boy, he was always like, we always played rugby league, but he loved the fight game. And so one of the things that we did was like, we played footy year round for summer season. And then he would basically get us into boxing in the off season to make sure we stayed fit. And that also we learned to, not just throw hands, but we learned to, well, I think when I look at it now, be more emotionally regulated, understand that once you throw a punch, you kind of can't take it back, and you've made that decision. So, it's kind of, are you controlling your anger and controlling your emotions? As we know in fight worlds, that's pretty important. Is that kind of a premise over there, like in that sort of like up and coming, even if you're not playing other sports, where we're looking at boxing or we're looking at something to develop discipline, we're looking at like kind of that fight scene to just build up that mental regulation?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And it's I don't think it's like that as much. It's just more of a thing. There's nearly a boxing hall in everybody's hometown, and everybody will go along, and most guys will go along and try it out at a younger age. And then if they like it, they'll stay for a while, a year or two, and maybe have a couple more fights, whatever that may be. But in Australia, I've noticed that it certainly is, as you just described it. Like a lot of footy players, especially, will go to boxing in the off season to build up that fitness. And I've had footy players like Josh McGuire come do pads with me and stuff like that. And even the Fenger twins come and do it. Just you guys love here in Australia to do that as well as a bit of a side thing.
Yeah,
we all seen the footballers like Paul Gallen and all come to boxing as well, and others. But it's I don't feel like it's as much of a come and get a little bit fit to help you alongside your other fitness. Not as much as I've seen in Ireland anyway.
Yeah. I think like coming from my league background, it was definitely like a way to stay fit in the off season. But I think it was also a way to, because, you know, we can only, when I was playing league, I say we now as if I am playing. When we were playing, you could only make so much contact. You know, there was always like that testosterone and competitiveness and aggression. Like you could only contact so hard, drop someone on their head so much, or, you know, before you give away a penalty, or lose that discipline and that emotional regulation. I think for a big part of us as footy players was that a boxing or a kickboxing or an MMA or a BJJ, it was almost like a disciplinary development tool. Like if you get in the ring, you're learning to control control your emotions, your responses, your aggression, and that translates pretty well into the field, because you're not going to be pissed off by the other team. You're not going to be pissed off by the ref. You're not going to be reactional. You're not going to be emotional. It's more like, let's move on to the next play. I see it kind of similar as like a cross-field benefit, I guess. Would you say that's pretty fair?
Yeah. Look, you're dead right. And I think it is across all sports in terms of how you play sport is how you live your life, really. And boxing just tends to be that little bit like you know, rugby. I've seen more guys come into the boxing gym injured from rugby, come into boxing to get a break from the injury. So you know, rugby can nearly be more harsh on the body, but boxing, because it's intentional, just adds this whole other stress to it. And when you get into the ring, like you said, you have to control your emotions. You got to learn to actually be an alchemist. You know, you got to understand that the feeling that you're feeling is adrenaline to make you act better. It's not, people say butterflies nerves. It's not even that. It's pure adrenaline. It's your fight or flight. And that actually makes you work better. It will make you more ferocious, and will do all those things if you transmute it properly, you know. But again, don't forget, it's fight or flight. So you'll either go in and you'll fight with everything you've got, or you'll completely go the other way and run away.
Yeah.
And that's something that you need to. And that's why, if you're more prone to running the other way, and that be opportunities in life or whatever that may be that you're going towards, rather than quitting and take the flight, you gotta transmute it and go fight. And so that's another big thing, is turning that energy into something that's productive and good, and not giving up, and using what you've got to get your best outcome. And that's only, like, I think, a shade of what boxing will do in terms of all around discipline and facing your fears and learning a new skill. And then you've got all your brain chemistries that come with it. Like when you've had a good workout and you've done something that you didn't ideally initially want to do, then you get all the great brain chemistry. You get rewarded, you know, even when you're young and full of testosterone. If you can actually start to, you know, aim for a goal of winning a fight, and then you start to get dopamine, which actually the challenge in boxing itself will give you many rewards. And there's just so many things in boxing that will actually start to lead you towards life. Like, and I'll just finish by saying, I've done public speaking before, and even when it comes to salespeople, like, you can literally relate boxing and the career in boxing to being a salesperson, in terms of taking the knocks and keep moving forward and all that kind of stuff. So you can relate it, you know, and if you do boxing and you understand it, I think that sets you up for the groundwork for nearly anything else that you want to do, you know.
I think, that alone is such an important point to touch on, is that I think a lot of the time, especially when we look at men's sport, it's often regarded as egocentric, masculine, or toxic, or competitive and testosterone driven. And honestly, it is those things, because it's a competitive physical contact environment. But I think the biggest thing that gets missed there is what that does for us elsewhere. And that it's not just, you know, we're not just going into these sports to just be egotistical, narcissistic douchebags. We're going into these things because we enjoy it, and you know, the love for competitiveness and the passion for development and getting better. But I think the benefits we find that starts to cross over to other realms of our life. I know from being 7 years old, I remember the first goal that I ever wrote down, as crazy as it sounded. We did this end of year sort of player profile when we're 7 years old. And I still remember it to this day, because we got to fill out this player profile card and sort of like, who do you want to be? What's your goals? What's your career job and dream job and that? And I remember reading back, and some of the other players in my team would have, like, you know, carpenter, truck driver, fireman. And I remember my answer was, I want to play halfback for the New South Wales Blues. State of origin, I want to play halfback. Did I do it? No. But it was more that that understanding of what sport did for me was like, it gave me a central direction. Like
Yeah.
nothing else was important as much. And I was 7 years old. And I think that at a certain point, when you get really competitive men and we do it for the right reason, I think those focuses, the discipline, the delayed gratification, be able to set goals and work towards things, understand there's going to be injuries and hiccups and, you know, setbacks. We can look at those and apply them to the rest of our life. Well, what did I do? What did I do in my sport when I lost? How do I apply that to my life? Or what did I do when I lost my girlfriend, or I lost my job, or, you know, I didn't make the sale? Well, I apply the same concepts.
Well, you know, I'll actually say that, you know, you like, as a bodybuilder, you're in phenomenal shape, right? And I know that you might say whatever, but for me as well, because I really, I think that your sport is like absolutely phenomenal. I knew someone back in Ireland who did a bit of it, and I think that what you do is just, you know, like, I don't think anyone really gets that either. You know, the discipline that you have to show, and the IQ that you got to show to be able to keep shocking the body and doing what you do. And then to go from when you're in your bulking stage down to shredding, and you got to see yourself losing muscle that you worked
Yeah.
so hard to build
Yeah.
just to get to a low body fat percentage. When you're doing that, I mean, the discipline in that itself. When you tell me that you've start setting goals from the age of 7, that makes sense to me, because, you know, from the ages of, like, you know, 0 to 8 and then onwards, you know, we're actually, our brains are firing and wiring. We're programming our brains of what it's going to do for future life.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you were already setting goals and like using discipline to get to that point, there's no surprises that you are now goal driven, and, you know, you're in phenomenal health and shape, you know, especially when you stand up on stage,
Mm-hmm.
and you go out of your way to help other people. And I think there's no mistakes in that. I think that you started well in life setting goals, and you got to where you are. Same as me, as a kid in my grandfather's car, wishing I'd be Irish champion one day. Never did I think as a kid I'd end up being a world champion, but here we are. You know, we set the blueprint and followed the game plan. So.
Hey, and that's a kind of perfect cross point to where I want to get to. There is one of the things that I think a lot of people really don't understand, and they sort of, you know, there's a lot of, they perceive it as entitlement, or they perceive it as arrogance, or they perceive it as cockiness, or whatever they want to call it. But when, let's say, like the number you gave before, your amateur career, upwards of 160 fights. Some people don't even want to repeat the same thing, or the same training program, or the same, you know, play the same season, or, you know, lose a couple games. They wouldn't want to do that 10 times. In order for you to even get to the pro status that you wanted, that degree of goal setting and delayed gratification you had to go through, knowing that each one of those fights, you're deliberately stepping into a ring to confront not only your fears and aggression, but for someone else to deliberately punch you in the face. I'll try not to get punched in the face, but you to step into punches so that you can punch someone back 160 times before you even get to the status of, I can get paid for this. That to me is the pinnacle of delayed gratification that I don't think people understand when it comes to seeing elite performers, elite athletes, elite bodybuilders, elite trainers. They think we just have this short change secret, or, you know, this gift of genetics or blessing, like, oh, it was easy, we just did it and it happened. You gotta, when you look at the background, you look at the backstory, 160 fights before you even went professional is a fucking lot of fights. Like, pardon the French to anyone listening, but that is when you really comprehend even stepping into the ring once, to know that you're willing to do it 160 times before you go, I'm in a position now where I can actually take this professionally. Is that going through your mind when you're sort of in those, like, going back then, even back, you know, how many fights do I have to do before I'm ready, or are you just taking each one as it comes?
No, I mean, I had a goal. It's funny, as a kid, but obviously, you know, we all have these funny things what we'll be when we're older. But when I started to really, you know, become a little boy, I used to say a professional boxer and a carpenter, which is exactly what I ended up doing. And it's funny enough, because the carpentry I kind of fell into. I had gone for an apprenticeship in plumbing, and someone else had taken a spot before me, and that guy knew a carpenter and gave me the number. So, you know, again, goals and stuff. But you know, it's look, it's like, for me, I remember, like, I have these vivid memories, especially as you were saying that, where I remember just, you know, just getting a phone call from my coach just on a Wednesday night when I'd been working you know, midway through the week, you're fighting Friday night down in Wexford, come to my house and we'll go from there. And I'd be all excited. I'd walk into my mom and be like, oh, I'm just after getting a fight, you know. So that's what my payment was. My payment was how excited I got when I found out I was fighting as a surprise. Like as a surprise, like it's I don't know. Maybe it's nuts. I don't know, but it was everything. It was everything I wanted to be. It was the opportunity for me to feel that feeling again of of competing, bettering myself, and getting my hand raised, because there was no better feeling for me than when I won. And again, you know, people say these things, and it always sounds a bit like wishy-washy, and do they really mean that? But you really are sort of competing with yourself, because when you're in, what that means, a lot of people may not understand what that means, but when you're in the ring and you're boxing, right? And that just said that guy is good at throwing certain things, and it seems like he's able to get there better than you. But you have the opportunity to be able to negate that and work harder than him. So really, is it up to yourself if you're going to let yourself get to that point of punishment or not? So really, in essence, you're fighting yourself, and it's basically a test of whether you're willing to go to that or not. And you beat another guy, and you outpoint him. You're standing there, and for me, that was like, I've done it again, and I'm getting further, I'm getting better. And it was never about money. And the best things I ever did was when I got called up for my country. Funny enough, my first fight for Ireland wearing the Irish vest was against Australia.
Yeah,
So that
right.
was, yeah, funny enough, that wasn't it? Back in 2002, I think it was. But I got many call-ups since, and I have many green vests. But when you got a phone call to say you're fighting for Ireland, we're either going here or the team is coming here. You know, I was just livid. I was just so excited. And obviously on fight day, you weren't all, you know, you're full adrenaline and all that. But, you know, more often than not, I won as well. So just you'd be on a high for a full week after winning for your country. You know, I traveled to Canada, beat the American USA champion who had been at the Olympics previously. And I have all these great wins that just left me on a high for a full week after. And that was all I needed. Money wasn't a thing for me back then. So
I think like, again, I can't even put myself in your shoes, because I never got to a level where I was playing for country and I wasn't competing for country. But understanding that the checkpoints and the progressions, and looking at wins, like every time when you're winning for the right reason, or you're playing for the right reason, you're training for the right reason, the wins trump everything else, in the sense that it's not for like, hey, I can go share this on my social media. It's more like a reflection of the culmination of work you've put in and the dedication and commitment to a single outcome. And you look at that and go, well, now how do I get better from that? And it's almost like a positive critical assessment. Like, holy fuck, that felt so good that I just, you know, me and the team, we won this game, we've won this grand final, we won this title belt. Well, now how do I get better? And that to me is always something that I find so exciting about winning, is that I'll always sort of reframe it, not as like, oh, the job's done and we're finished here, but more so, if that was the best, or if I just did my best and we won, where do I go from here? How do I get better so next time I win even better, or I don't lose to the next challenge? Or, you know, that I think is probably one of the most powerful things I find with winning, is the reflection of not even the trophy, not even the fanfare, not even the praise. It's the internal reflection that everything you sacrificed and everything you gave up and the delayed gratification for that single point in time, you got there and it was worth it. And that you can now also look at getting better again.
Yeah, you can improve on that, and that's always the exciting part. But back when I was winning and fighting for Ireland, like, yeah, you get a mention in the newspaper or whatever, but there was no social media, or at least, if you know, you wouldn't be posting it on there. You'd just be getting up and going to work. It's just say you fight the weekend, you get up and go to work on Monday. You tell the boys and work, and you just be on your own little high, because you just bettered yourself. And I suppose in the back of my mind, I always thought, I'm getting more and more experience for going professional in years to come, which was always going to be the pinnacle, you know. So, yeah.
So let's move forward then, because we've got 160 fights as an amateur. we know that generally we people try and associate the rule of mastery as, 10,000 hours of dedicated time. It's not quite accurate, because someone as passionate as you, I think you would have mastered the skill, or continue to master it in a much faster time frame. But 160 fights as an amateur, do you look at carpentry and go, okay, this is now standing in my way. The next step for me is going to require me to make that leap and sort of decide that there is nothing else, or I take that risk and say a steady income and a paying career and a good, trade craft versus my potential boxing career. Do you look at that and go, I got to fuck this off? Or is it more of a gradual sort of, this could happen eventually and I'll work it until it becomes a paid gig?
Yeah, well, look, boxing in Ireland, yeah, there was only one or two. There was one guy in particular, Bernard Dunn, who sort of brought big time boxing back to Ireland and kept it going there for a while. Carpentry for me, my mom was smart. She's like, go get your apprenticeship now. When things didn't work out for me in two schools, she said, go get an apprenticeship. So I did that. So I knew I'd always have that to fall back on. So there was no hassle in that regard. And I was happily enough. I'd gone out doing a bit for myself, and then the 2000 recession came along, the 2008. I had been in Ireland, I'd been in Australia backpacking. So what I said was, I'm going to go doing that year of backpacking. It's something that's like sort of glamorized in Ireland. It's like, oh, backpacking for a year in Australia. And I said, you know what, before I decide to go all in with my career, to really see what I can do, I'm going to do that. So I backpacked in Australia for, the year 2005, 2006, halfway through 2005 to halfway through 2006. And then I came back again. And then when I came back, like I actually would have stayed here because I loved it here. I would have stayed here only I wanted to go back and see what I could do with my boxing. So I did that, and I was only back about a year, and I had won my Irish title, and then I was asked to go on a team back out to Australia again. So I did that in 2008. I boxed in Brisbane and Sydney twice in 2008, and I had met the boxing promoter and trainer Steve Deller here, and I had a good win my first night in Brisbane, and he said, if you ever want to go pro, there was pro-am shows on here which I'd never seen before, and he said, if you ever want to go pro, come on back out here and I'll get you some good fights. I had a good following that night. I was here too because my cousin lives here in Brisbane. He brought along a lot of Irish, and there was a great atmosphere. So there was already, I knew there was a bit of a market here. That was good. And then I went back to Ireland after that. When the 2008 recession kicked in, it was like, oh, wow. It was like, so I think I stayed there for about maybe a year. And then I said, right, now it's time to go professional. So I came back out here. And when I rang up, pretty much, I had been talking to him before the summer, maybe the summer of 2010. But I finally decided to make the move in around Christmas, New Year's. And he said, look, we had a chat, and he said, if you're here by January 1st, I'll have you fit and ready to fight St. Patrick's Day of 2011. So we did that. We aimed for that. It got pushed back to the 1st of April, 2 weeks, but that was all good. And I started my first pro fight, and I had 9 pro fights in my first 11 months. So, because here's the thing, I had so much, I was able to go all in. I was used to dividing my energy between training, life, and working. Even like sometimes I could be in the car driving for 2 to 3 hours a day if I was working in Wicklow or Dublin, and now it was just down to the gym, train, back home again for rest. It was like, let's do this. Let's go. So
there's something I think a lot of people are scared, and I think given states of economics and things like that currently, and people have risks and shit like that, I understand it. But I've made the same jumps several times in my career over business and education and performance. I think people get scared at this idea that something has to come as a risk in order for it to be significant. The risk involved for you to make that decision, like, I'm going to move countries, I'm going to go all in and give up this. And like, carpentry is not especially in Australia, carpentry is not a cheap skill. It's not a laid back income. It's not like anything to turn your nose up at. There's a decent income to be made from carpentry, whether it's formwork, construction, civil, whether it's just housing. Carpentry is a well-paid trade craft in Australia. You're making that decision to say, I am more passionate and certain of what I'm going to do in my boxing career that I'm going to give that up. Because we know if you're in a certain skill, the longer you're in it, the better you get. So you give a few years up for carpentry, that's a few years of extra skill or bit and rusty that you're not quite, you haven't still got it. You've made that decision to go, I'm going all in on boxing. I'm doing this, nothing else. I think a lot of people get scared about that idea that you're going to have that risk. Like it was not promised to you that it wasn't guaranteed to succeed. It wasn't guaranteed you were going to go world number one. It wasn't guaranteed that you would have all these title fights and, be in these positions to be on Fox Sports and be displayed as one of Australia's best fighters. Those things weren't promised, but you backed yourself in your position enough to go, I don't give a fuck what's going on. If I can lose out in the economy being a carpenter, then I may as well try the thing that I love most and be a fucking boxer. And I think that is one of the most powerful success stories you can hear. And I hear it most is when people that succeeded or took off, they had that pivot point or that fork in the road. I stayed doing what I'm doing and sort of half-ass it and kind of be in and out with, amateur fights and still being a tradie, or I go all in and make that fucking risk. And obviously it's paid dividends and the fruit is obvious, but I think a lot of people get sort of scared or worried that, taking that risk or taking that chance is the wrong idea, or, it's not worth it, or that, the squeeze is not worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze. But looking at yourself, that's literally what you did. And you took that plunge and fucking here we are.
Yeah, look, no, I get that. I feel like I was so passionate about boxing itself and to go pro. And my grandfather was still alive at the time, so he was still good and healthy when I say healthy, but he was still good and conscious for my first two pro fights, for 2 wins, 2 knockouts. And it meant the world to me, and to know that how much he was loving it. Just because he's my grandfather. I've tattooed on my on my stomach here, just under my heart. So I was just so passionate about it, that I didn't care. I said, let's just go all in and do it. Like, looking at it now, and you see all the Gary V stuff, it was harder to make that decision back then. But Gary V now talks and says the 20s is your time to do these risks. So it turns out that I made the right decision, and obviously I've proved it too with now, with the accolades that I've won. But at that stage to go and do that, I feel like it was the right time to do it. Yeah, I rocked up in Australia with $850 in my pocket and a promise of a pro fight, and I thought, wow, okay. And a bit of work. I was told I could get a few hours work a day for the first, till I was able to get my first fight.
Yeah.
And then obviously gather sponsors and momentum and stuff like that. So it was all a big risk, but that was the time to do it. But again, I was so passionate about boxing that it didn't bother me anyway. Once I got to make my pro debut, give it my best crack, and have another few cracks after that, then you know what? If it didn't work out for me and it wasn't for me, I definitely wouldn't have regretted trying. But like you said, there is a lot of people that the fear of that would have deterred them alone, and probably have. I've had a lot of people message me from Ireland saying, because I was probably a bit of a success story, coming to Australia and doing what I did, winning titles here and going to America and winning a North American title and doing all the things that I've done. And I had messages from many guys that I boxed for Ireland with and stuff saying, hey, what's it like there? Is it good? And I say, look, I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard work. You got to sell tickets. If you want to be promised to get on the shows, you got to sell tickets and draw a crowd. And that seemed to deter so many people. That I was like, should I have said that or not? Let them get here and work it out. But I'm like, no, because if they're messaging me and asking me, I've got to tell them what it is and how it is. Because that was one of the things that got me 11 fights, 9 fights in 11 months, was the fact that I drew a crowd. And then I had to go and draw a crowd and buy tickets. And before I knew it, I was on commission. And sometimes I was making more money off the commission for the seats, for selling tickets, than I was for the actual for the fight purses. So that's how determined I was to make it work. But it certainly gave me a head start. And then I was backing it up with my performance and getting better every time. So it was good synergistically, It just worked out. Feels like it was meant to be, but it was a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of scary moments too, I won't lie. I don't really feel those now or look back at those, but there was a lot of times you're like, whoa, I don't really have enough money this week. And, you know, but there was always another fight coming. And I thought if I could just get to the next fight, and that hunger kept me, like, you know, that not knowing and the uncertainty of it actually really
Yeah.
drove me to be the best. Yeah, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's you can't really put into words how important I think people need to hear. Like, so you can't put a value on how important it is to hear those sort of conversations. I think it's why I find podcasts now, or just being able to talk to people, so important. Is that, you know, how many people are talked out of things that they wanted to do or thought of doing or taking those risks or those plunges just because, oh, the economy's tough, and oh, this is tough, and oh, this is hard. In my opinion, we are all getting out of life the same way. We're all going to pass away. Either way, no matter who you are, how well you do it, or how safe you play it, we're all going to go. So to me, the same sort of premise applied when I looked at rugby league. I knew that, you know, even if I didn't make it, even if it wasn't for me, even if it wasn't something that was 100% promised, or I was going to get an NRL contract, which I never did, you know, even if my best career step was to play reserve grade or just below Q Cup, or, you know, any grade below that, I wanted to know that I could push myself and take that risk and that chance, that my job was my funding to play this sport. My job was my second tier to support me playing the sport and trying to take off.
Yeah.
That pursuit, I think, of challenging yourself and taking that risk, I think a lot of people just get scared about it. They get so caught up in worrying what other people think, or, you know, holding back, or not following in their potential, or seeing what their potential is, or just self-doubt and just self-ridicule or bullshit from other friends. I want to stay around and party and get drunk with others because I don't want to admit to myself this is what I want to do. It genuinely makes me upset, I think is a fair word. It's almost emotional when I see people that have that potential to do something significant, and every other excuse under the sun stops them from just saying, you know what, let's just fuck around and find out. Let's see what happens if I dedicate 12 months, 2 years, 5 years to this single thing. All of a sudden, it's like, you know, you do it for 3 months and it's, it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't going to happen. You know, couldn't be done, or politics was against me, or fucking whatever excuse it is. I think too many people fall back on that instead of just saying, you know what, let's find out what happens if I give this 5 to 10 years. Because it's, you know, you're a walking example. It's, you know, it's easy to see what you could do in 12 months or a week and say, that's a fair bit of work. But what could you actually do in 12 or 10 years, 5 years? What can you actually dedicate and achieve if you just fucking knuckle down and take the risk? Because like I said, either way, we're all going out. So if you're going to end up failing, your 20s is the time to do it. Your early 30s is the time to do it. You're not going to drop dead from failing, but you're at least going to try and find out, right?
And you're going to learn a lot too, aren't you? But one of the things that I learned though is, like when I went, like I was saying before, I didn't know I was probably about a half a year to 3/4 of a year in when I seen how much I progressed in that period of time to where I needed to be to win a world championship, that I started to really say, oh wow, I think I can do this. Like I was really like, and then I had gotten sparring with some champions, and it wasn't long before I was sparring with Daniel Gill, who was a unified world champion. And I started to go, oh wow, like this is actually really on the cards. I can actually do this. But what I was getting at there was, when I was going pro at first, it was more so for the journey. At first, it wasn't what's going to happen if it doesn't work out. It was like, no, this is a passion of mine. And I'm going to pursue this. And, you know, even in the pursuit of it alone, like, you know, through your dopamine and through all of that, like I was genuinely enjoying the challenge of what it was going to be, and getting to my first fight and then winning it. And what can I do next, and keep pursuing it and all of that. And if it didn't work out for me, I'd still look back on those years as very fond years, because I really pursued a passion of mine. And then through loving it so much and everything else, I ended up being quite successful. But again, you know, I would suggest to anybody that is looking to do stuff, you know, even if there is a fear of, you know, not making as much money in the interim, or you know, what would people think of me, blah blah blah. Just think about how you will feel just pursuing that alone, and pursuing a passion, and knowing, wow, I can actually do something that I really enjoy and want to do. and you know, and then there's all of that, and you will never regret that. You would never regret that. I've never heard someone turn around and say, "Oh, I did what I loved for a while. I wasn't successful, but
I
why
fucking
do I
hated it.
regret doing that?" Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
you never
No
hear
one
it.
will regret it. It's like someone saying, "I regret going on holidays," you know. So
No, and like I find myself a perfect example of that. I dedicated 20 years to playing rugby league. Had a car accident, got diagnosed with spinal disability. That path for me was never given back. I could never take that back. But I would never for a second sit there and go, fuck, I wasted time playing rugby league. It never turned into a career. The things I learned, the experiences I had, the skills I developed, even like when we started the conversation, like you said, you can recognize where goals sort of kicked in at an early age. All those things that I developed from going all in on something that, because to me, it wasn't just, I'm just going to play for some fun, or, you know, I was going to play with the next grade up and see what happens. To me, the plan was to go further. That was always the plan, is what's the next step, or how do I try and progress this, or I lost this position to someone else, how do I get better? And even after 21 to 25, when I had the injury and lost all that sort of direction, I would never once sit back and go, I regret doing that. And I think, like you said, that's you, even if it doesn't happen, not even that should be the goal. It's not to do it in case it doesn't happen. It's because you fucking love like you love this and you love this thing. Wouldn't you rather find out or try it and see what could happen, not instead of what couldn't happen? I would much rather know that that sport wasn't for me, that business endeavor, that career, that education, that degree, it wasn't for me in the end, but I fucking gave it 100% to know that it wasn't for me. Because I know now, and you'll know when you retire, when I retired from rugby league, there was nothing left that I had to give that I could have said, oh, I would have been great, or I would have been this or that if it didn't happen. No, I know what would have happened because I gave it everything and I didn't quite get there, but I fucking know. And you'll know when you retire. There was no more belts to win because you didn't let them be an option. You won them or you didn't, because it was fucking, you gave 100%.
yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. That's exactly what it is. You don't ever want to regret. Like, if anything, the only regret I have, it's not even a regret, but when I was fighting Tim Zoo is awesome. You know, he's champion. He's a champion, an interim world champion right now, and he's gonna do great things. He really is. I actually broke my nose 6 weeks out from that.
I remember that.
Yeah, and look at it now. It's still not good, but I wouldn't. I still took the fight. I still took the fight, and I still fought Tim anyway. And my regret is actually being too gun ho. Like, you know, I probably should have tried to get a new date and everything I'd be asked, but I don't think they believed that. I don't think they believed that. They thought I was trying to get a trainer over from America. So I didn't get it, and I went. That's how gung ho I was, and I have been throughout my whole career. I just all in, and you know what? I don't think you regret it in the long run if you just go all in and give it everything you've got. You know.
And like, you know, we're both fond of someone like Jordan Peterson. We've had many chats in stores several times about people like him and sort of some of his concepts and philosophies and beliefs in life and education through psychology. He's said many times, and it's something that I've written to a lot of my clients, it's something that I emulate to a lot of my clients, is that positive emotions, these things we try to chase, you know, we try to chase happiness, we try to chase these positive sensations. The most positive emotions and experiences we get are elicited from the body in pursuit of higher goals. So if you're trying to feel good, as we sort of talked about, if you're trying to feel better, if you're trying to do something, you want to experience something nice, it's not so much the win or lose. It's not even the outcome. It's the fact that you were pursuing it. And every time you hit a checkpoint, your body is going to positively reward you for that and give you that incentive to keep going. Because the act of doing towards something significant and something important to you that you are passionate about, that aligns with your values as a man or woman, that is what's going to give you the positive sensations, the positive emotions, the positive experiences. And then the outcomes are relevant. Like, yeah, it's great to win. Don't get me wrong. We love winning. But the sheer act of doing, to me, is fucking unreal. And bodybuilding cannot be more of an example of that, where, you know, we get 5 minutes on stage once every couple of years when you compete. But the act in between of what you're doing every day, I fucking love it. And it's always like, if you frame it properly, it becomes positive. And I think that's such a key point for people to really understand, is that if, regardless of your sport, the fucking act of just doing it because you love it and trying to get better is going to be positive.
Well, I mean, that is significant. And that's, you know, when I mentioned dopamine twice now. So, dopamine is like I feel the times in my life when I've been the least happy is when I feel like when I'm not pursuing a goal, or at least I'm not getting to my goal or whatever. But yeah, it's probably because I'm not pursuing it for the most part, for whatever reason that would be. And usually it's I even had a little bit last year where I had like so I was made I had already won my title eliminator before before the guys fought for the title, before I was to fight the winner. So I had to wait for all that to happen. In the meanwhile, I did a lower back injury, and then I got some. There was a lot of upper respiratory infections going around, and I
Yep.
caught one of those. And I sort of was out of action, properly training for maybe 6 weeks. I started to really get like,
Yeah.
heady and not feeling good. And I've never suffered with actual depression. So if there's another element to that, I can't speak on that. I don't understand it. But the closest I've got to feeling depressed that I'm aware of is always been when I'm not pursuing another goal and I'm not getting closer to it. And I certainly was starting to feel that. Like I was starting to notice the self-talk creeping in. Like, like sometimes I would just say, and I'll be honest, I was like, this is shit. What's the point? I was just saying stuff like that to myself.
Yep.
And then it was only when I was starting to come back to good health again with the injury and with this, I got myself a good Chinese medicine doctor who managed to help me with herbs and stuff. And I started getting my fitness. I was able to train hard again, and then I felt brand new again. And then the fight got locked in, and I was happy again. So
Yeah.
it's not as if it's not that though. It's not that if I'm not training, I'm not happy. That's not the way. But it's when I'm active. It's that when I'm working towards something, that dopamine that I get, and I think that is the significant
Yep.
hormone to talk about, dopamine, isn't it?
Yep.
And something that I find very important in that is when you're younger and the more testosterone you have, is you'll find that people that men that are younger will tend to find themselves in more sort of harder sports or more competitive sports because with the presence of dopamine, the feeling of challenge actually it feels better,
Oh yeah.
and you
Yeah.
actually enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I know when I know the difference between me being healthy. So if I, especially during the summer here, if I get like good five IU's of vitamin D a day through the skin, through sun, and I have my vitamin C good and my zinc good, I've
Yep.
got everything going good. I'll actually notice that when I'm going training, the challenge of it, regardless how hard it is, I actually drive on. So I
Mm-hmm.
know that my dopamine is high, my testosterone is probably in its natural high levels. And I'll also notice that when I'm a couple of weeks out from a fight and I'm taking a rest, um, and just say you go back training for the first time, it doesn't feel all that good because maybe my hormone levels aren't all that good. I need to get healthy again, and so I just think that the pursuit of going after goals and the better that you healthier you get, and just by going after them alone makes you feel healthy, happy, and on a mission and actually quite fulfilled. And then if you're lucky, you'll be successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
So
that in and of itself, like that sense of, like, if we're to really knuckle it down and give it a kind of a concept, I guess, is that sense of having a purpose, I think makes a significant difference in people's life. That, how many people that I know from high school, from different walks of life, the different groups that I've been in amongst or talked to or been to, there was never that next purpose. There was never that next level of something. It was just simply, I got into this job because, I got into this industry because, or I got this partner because. There was never that sense of purpose. And they were always, to me, the ones who seemed the most emotional, miserable, upset,
yeah,
pissed off, angry at the world. But the ones that are always called egotistical or arrogant or cocky, that I genuinely spoke to, that have had a purpose in life that is something bigger than themselves, something significant, that, I want to be the best in the world because of XYZ. I want to be number one, or I want to work for this. There's that sense of always direction that you kind of can't take away. And once you really hone in on it, there's no stopping it. There's no, something gets in the way or interrupts it. We will always feel, or I believe, once you know what it is, you will always feel at odds if you aren't working towards it. And that
yeah,
is something that will make you feel unfucking stoppable. Is,
yeah,
the many hiccups that will come in the way, the obstacles, the setbacks. all of that is almost worth it, and it's overcome. We're able to overcome it because we have that specific purpose of direction we're working towards. That, I think unfortunately a lot of people in life don't get to experience. They don't get the sport purpose, or the desire to become the world best, or the desire to even win a championship or a title, or run a business. They don't get to experience that. And I think it's a very obvious thing in some people, and it's not to be arrogant. It's not being cocky or anything. It's just simply, you can tell. You can tell when people have a purpose in life that's something they're really working towards, and it shows.
Yeah, no, you're dead right, because I think like you say, especially emotion and stuff like that. I think people that are emotional are unfulfilled, I think, for the most part, because how can you be living your passion and emotional at the same time? I don't really see that colliding. And then if you're, just say, you're working towards your sport or whatever, and you've got a passion and everything else, your body's beaming, it's vibrating, your hormones are in order, everything's going good, and then just say if you're eating healthy, you're not eating healthy, you're eating to kind of, because that's a rewards, that's a way to get to activate the reward system, the reward center, is by eating crap food. So people that aren't following a passion, when they're looking to activate dopamine, that means going on to social media, scrolling. That means eating junk food. That means going all the other ways that aren't healthy, and all those things then will disrupt, and mostly hormone disruptors. For you got more estrogen, which will end up being more emotional. You've got all this. It's the complete opposite. And so that's why I think it is important to find value in something that you're going after, and to really pursue it. Now I'll tell you that when I did have my downs, because boxing is full of ups and downs, and I've had my downs. Sure. But I've been very, as we spoke, I don't know if you mentioned it here live, but we spoke about it before. Me fighting that fight in Mexico, and even look, I've had 4 losses as a professional boxer. I've had 31 wins though, and I've been ripped off badly for a world championship. You're probably planning on speaking about it, but what I'll say is, when I've lost that fight, so I'm very conscious of what my why is, and what really gets me, like, why do I want to be this person? I've gone into that, and I've done some deep work with a mentor. I did seminars, personal development work with MGB seminars, and we went right deep into it. And one of the things for me that I seen were, if I gives way to a value, so I felt like, as a kid, I had all these good people around me, but I felt like I didn't really have all the knowledge that I needed. And so I went and got it. And therefore, the value for me now is that I want to relay these things to other people. And I also want to show them, I want them to take inspiration from me, to go and live that life and to do these things. So my why is to be the greatest and best version of myself, and inspire others to be the same. And when I'm living in accordance with that, then I'm regardless of what happens to me, whether I'm winning or I'm losing, I'm actually helping those people, because my story is getting more and more significant. I've always believed I'd be the world champion. But my story, even with the losses, has now become more significant, of don't give up, keep moving towards it, and keep going on, and that's so. And then it was getting ripped back to me. Like, I got more love in messages from people that I didn't know after that fight against Munguia in Mexico. The message that I got, the love that I got from people that I didn't know, from even the Mexican people, was phenomenal. And I knew I was doing something good. I knew it was time to go again. And even after my loss for the WBC middleweight title fight with Charlo, I had half America message me, tell me I was a warrior to get back up from the first knockdown and keep going again, and that I'd gone up a weight category to fight the guy at that division. And then my following loss after that, fighting Tim as well, and all of that. Like, the message that I got was like, about inspiration and everything. But the message I got when I did win the title in my last fight made it so worth it. It was like, wow. It was like people tell me, I met a guy on who might actually see this. I met a guy last week. I get noticed quite often now, and he stopped me and told me that through seeing me achieve my goals, that gave him inspiration. And I met him just on the foreshore down in Wynnum. And I'm like, this is the sort of stuff that makes it all worth it. And this is the
Yeah.
stuff that makes me know that even the losses are very important, because it makes my story greater.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's going to inspire people, and that everything that I do is going to be an inspiration to other people. And how can you not be inspired after that? You know, you just want to keep going, better yourself, and show people that it is worthy to follow your goals and get outside your comfort zone to be the best. So
100%. Like you can't really put it much better than that. I mean, each loss is a unique chat point in and of itself. We can have 4-hour conversations about the Mexico fight, the America fight, the Taizu fight. We can have all those chats as individual podcasts, because they were adversities and overcoming them and getting back on your horse. Like each loss leads to the next fight, because you take that accountability and say, you know what, even the Mexico fight, and we've had that chat in store many times, and kind of like, what it's like to look at that and go, well, that was my chance and I lost it. And lost, it's a loose word, because we both know realistically that was your fight. And then you still to still be on the horse and go, you know what, fuck it, who cares? If that's the outcome, great. I can't go back and change it right now. What do I do next? How do I get to the next fight? How do I get to the next title chance? Because everyone's going to face losses in life. Everyone's going to have a loss, whether it's fair, unfair. We both had this conversation a dozen times, if there was cameras in that store, when we were talking, in terms of people thinking they're entitled to success, entitled to winning, not having a hard day's work, or not having to struggle in life. I mean, firstly, just to have that thought process, to me, I think, F you. You are not entitled to anything. You're not entitled to a fair fight. You're not entitled to a fair game, a fair outcome. You want one, but you're not entitled to it. And to me, if that's happened, so be it. When I overcome this and I take that next step and I work harder and I come forward on the other side, I've then overcome the fact that it was unfair. You can't feel like you can't show much more virtue, and you can't show much more value in yourself and self-belief, determination, grit, hard work, consistency, than when the actual game was against you and you still came out and won. Like, there's not much more you can say about that. But for some reason, people think that they're entitled to an easy outcome, or they're entitled to that win. You and me, we both know that fucking fight you lost, great. But now those fucking winning fights you had feel 10 times better when you know that, it was against you in the start, and that loss was not supposed to happen and it did. Or, you should have won this fight and it didn't happen. Now you go on and win that belt. I bet that felt 10 times fucking better.
yeah, it did. It's so funny. It felt like destiny. It was like I felt like it all had to happen. Like I had said in the lead up to that fight, I was getting interviewed, and it was all like, you've been ripped off, of world titles, and this is probably your last chance, and everyone was saying that, and I had to say, okay, this is my last go back around. And I had to say that, because I was like, I have a family, and even though I know what's in here, I don't want family worrying about me, thinking I'm getting too old, and I don't want all of that, and sponsors to kind of look after me, and I don't want people to think I'm taking them for a run either. So what I said was, after the Tim Tszyu fight, I had a friend say, "Have you thought about what you want to do after boxing?" I thought, "Oh, we're having that conversation now, are we?" I'm like, because we were not getting any younger. We all know boxing's a young man's sport. So it's like, so I was like, okay. I said, right. So I actually said, you know what, Dennis, go off and have a think about this now. Just really think. And I'm like, you know what though? Like, I won a world championship 2 years ago. I wasn't given the decision. Can I get back to that? Yes. What has been the main? What has been the main stuff that's happened in the last two fights? Well, when I lost the WBC middleweight fight, I was at middleweight. I should never have been at that weight. And then I fought Tim with a broken nose. So why don't I stay at my weight, get back good again? Don't take a fight unless you're ready. Like, no excuses. Just get back and go again. And because I was a bit gung-ho, really, wasn't I? To take that fight middleweight and then to fight with a broken nose. So, again, that doesn't take anything away from the guys that beat me. I won't even say I'd have won those fights. I'm just saying, I said I'm going to go back and do it right again. I'm going to go one more chance. My family backed me, my friend, everyone backed me. And what was in my heart, what I knew, prevailed, and we went and we won it. But the whole time I was known as the guy who was ripped off for the world championship fight. You know, I got an exemption to go to Las Vegas and train there for a world title eliminator. Was meant to be for December 2020. And I was there training 7 weeks before he got COVID, Julian Williams. And I had to come back after a lot of $1,000 spent. Yeah, I had to sit in hotel quarantine over Christmas in Sydney before I could come back here and see my kids and my partner 26th of December. So, but even when I was in Vegas, I was like, oh, you're Hogan, you're that guy that was ripped off. Like, that's how I was known around the world. I was now known as the guy who got ripped off. So I really seen this as my opportunity to change that, right? And I thought, this is my opportunity. I'm not the guy who got ripped off anymore. I'm the guy who won the world championship, or at least got ripped off and won the world championship. And that was a big driving force for me. And we went one more time, and lo and behold, we got it. And I'm so happy to have that now, because again, my goal was always to be undisputed unified world champion. The goal is now bigger again. It's like, when I was in Ireland, I was getting interviewed quite often, and they were all like, "Whoa, you've done it! Like you could sail off into the sunset." Now people thinking like my age again, you know, they're kind of saying, "You've done it now, mate, go, go!" Like, you know, they're literally saying, "Do it, go, just go!" Like, because they're probably thinking how they would think inside my body, you know, but they're not in my mind, you know. That's why I specified that in my body, but not my mind, because my mind and my heart is like, okay, I've done it, but now I'm on a mountain peak, but I'm at the fucking summit of another mountain, because that's what it's all about. It's gold, everything else. When my time is done and the wheels fall off, all good. Let's go. Now I go into public speaking and other things that I genuinely love doing. But for right now, I got to be all in or not, because you don't want to be getting into the ring against those young guys coming through that want everything you've worked for. If you're only in it for money or blah, 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 you got to be in it to win it, for everything, for all the gold, or you won't put in, you know, you genuinely won't.
If you got half a foot out the door, and I always say this, whether it's relationships, business, family, friends, sport, whatever the thing is that you're trying to improve or succeed on, if you got 1 foot half out the door, just take the step, because there's no point. When it really comes push to shove and it comes to that grittiness and the back end of the fight in the last 3 to 4 rounds, and you got a fucking chuffed up cheek and you've got a fucking head knock and a concussion, you're not going to last those extra 4 rounds that might determine the difference between you being world number 1 and you being world number 2, or you being never remembered as anyone that did anything. If you're half out, don't even bother. And that's not as in like, you know, think about plan B or what. No. If you're doing something as serious as this, having that, well, you know, let's think about the retirement, let's start planning about that. No, you're getting in that ring. Someone can kill you, or you can kill them. You can win, or they can win and take everything you got. You can't have your foot half out the door. You can't even, that can't even be a conversation, because the second you start having that conversation, well, now that thought's in your head, and you got that self-talk spiral, and you got that conversation going on, and you know, you're in fight camp, everyone's talking about this up and coming 25-year-old or whatever. And you're now all of a sudden it's, oh, but I'm getting a bit older and everyone's talking about retirement. Do I have the speed to fight him? You can't have that thought in your camp, in your head, with your family, your supporters, or, you know, in your business or your other sport, whatever it is you're doing. You can't have that sort of shit lingering where, you know, I'm going into the biggest event of my life and I'm going to sit there and think, oh, you know, do I want to do this, or should I do this, or what's next instead, or can I be half out the door? That's not going to end well.
Yeah, no, 100%. You can't be thinking like that. I know a couple of fighters who were starting to think about the money, and it didn't end well for them. Really, they didn't finish their careers, you know, as on top as they could have, and you know, just, you know, it's not the way to be, mate. Yeah, you gotta go all in.
So I got 2 more points I want to quickly touch on, because I know I'm keeping you late. It's 9 o'clock by the time we're having this conversation.
Oh, good.
Let's go back to that fight, because that was the turning point, I think, mentally for you. But the chats we started having, because that was right around the time I met you, but the chats we started having and the ways you were looking at things, I think really shifted after that, because you've got, as you said, 160 amateur fights, 35 professional fights, 34 31 wins.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 36, yeah.
36, and you're looking at only 4 losses. That first loss, realistically, it's going to hit you on the chin, especially when you didn't deserve the loss. You didn't deserve to, you know, to realistically, as I said, you're the guy who got robbed, yada, yada. That's become the story. how do you reframe that to go on to where you are now? How do you have that scenario where you're like, this could be my chance, and everything I've worked for in life and everything I've worked up to, and this is the Rocky belt moment that I could finally get, and it's been taken from me. How do you flip that to get back to positive mental affirmation, to positive framing, to, redrive yourself and go, I'm not done?
Well, for me, I love, to be a world champion in my mind is like, I don't think anyone will ever understand how much it means to me.
Mm-hmm.
If people that genuinely love sport hear of a world champion, they think, oh, wow, he's the champion of the world. But what it means to me is 10 times more than that. Like, I've literally stepped into the boots of the boy I always wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
Of the man I always wanted to be as a boy. So that night, when I went out there and I knew I had won, I had beaten a world champion in his home ground. In that, I had said, right, I've done this here tonight. And on camera and on video, I said, tonight I've won a world championship. I'm the world champion in here. It's only a matter of time till the belt is around here. And that's still on my social media right now. And I meant that every word I said. And I said, I've waited till this long to have that performance to be world champion. I've done the performance. Now I just got to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took positive from it. I nearly had to console my team that night. I was the positive one because I thought now I know I've got that caliber.
Mm-hmm.
And all I've got to do is, as hard a training as that was, I have to replicate that and even be better. I can even be better again. So that was the mindset for me. And how nice it was on the 8th of October when I finally got that strap to match that, to match what I said back, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah. So, well, it was 3 years back then. So it was, so that's what it was for me. It was, I've now seen it. I now know it. Before I believed I could do it. Now I know I can do it. Let's go get that strap. And yeah, look, when I said that to myself, I went through the biggest lows of my career after that. And, because we had me go to middleweight, as I spoke about, and then we had COVID kick in. And I was inactive then for 18 months before I broke my nose and fought Tim. So there was a lot of downside for me that I had to overcome. But I was so certain, that I could do it right, get back up there and get it again. And now here we are. So you know what? Had it not happened like this, it might have been a book of a story, but now it's a movie. So we'll see. I heard Hugh Jackman is lining up to play me.
I hear he can do a pretty good accent.
Yeah.
Like that you can't put it better than that as a mentality. I think, again, it's something that only athletes can experience. But this is kind of why I think I like what Matter is doing. And I'm not to make this about me or my business, but one of the biggest things I've always said, and I read it on my first about me, or the first about me of the business when we made the website, was I never thought that I would be Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or Andrew Johns. Like, I wanted to be them, and I wanted, like, to me, elite performance in sport was unreal. I've never liked many sports, but I've loved other people that excelled at sport. And the biggest thing to me was that I find a lot of people in life don't have a sport to attach to, or an idol to attach to, or people to look at, or really comprehend how hard elite success is. And so the big thing for me was kind of, how can I take these strategies, these mental skills, these abilities from elite athletes, very successful athletes, world number ones, people like yourself that, seem to be innately born, or at least more consciously aware of those skills, and give it to people who have no idea. Because it's such an important concept. Like everything we've just talked about here around visualization, delayed gratification, seeing and believing long before anyone else is going to believe. You have to believe that is a belt that's yours to have before anyone else gets on the sponsorship or the bandwagon or in your corner or the support team. You've got to be the one to convince them, I'm going to fucking do this. So you get on the train now and come for the ride, or you don't. You've got to believe that far before they do.
Yeah.
And there's this almost like this gap between athletes and the everyday person, but yet the everyday person could benefit so much from these skills or these mental abilities, it's like self-belief and visualization, delayed gratification, goal setting. It would, even if you don't have a sport, it just becomes something profound to your life, but yet people don't seem to grasp it. They just look at the elite successful and like, they're arrogant, or they're dickheads, or fuck them, they didn't work hard for it. Mate, I've known you for only 4 years and I can tell how fucking hard you've worked for it. The skills and benefits people would have from just hearing this story would change their life. So, to me, it's like that becomes such an important factor to understand. A, that it wasn't just given. B, that you actually went through struggles and adversity. But C, that there's stuff that they can take from you and apply to their life. There's ways that you've looked at overcoming obstacles, reframing bad situations. There's going to be times in life where shit gets hard and you've reframed it to be positive. Oh, well, just because I lost this fight that was mine to win, it doesn't mean I can't go on to do it again. I've already done it. I just have to repeat it.
Yeah.
Like, just little things like that don't end up so little to people, I think is just so important, and always frustrates me when people don't want to grasp it or take it in, because there's so much value in it that we seem to possess as athletes that, can serve them.
Well, that's it. Look, what I find is, I find that, we spoke about this before. It was like, it's not that people aim high and miss. It's that they aim low and get it, right? Because I've certainly aimed very high. Like again, like I said before, until I actually seen what I was capable of doing as a pro, I never thought I could be a world champion. I was just very lucky that I went all in and I started to really perform, and I got the opportunity to spar some world champions and stuff, and I seen, oh wow, I'm at this level. And then I was like, do I dare to dream? And then I did. And then so it happened for me. But it's all about putting that vision on and then just going after it. And I think I do genuinely believe, you hear people saying, if you can dream it, you can do it. Someone who would have had my mindset back years ago, I never went to the Olympics or to the World Championships as an amateur. I possibly could have, but I never had set a goal to. Again, I didn't set that goal, but whatever I did set my mind to, I did it. And that wasn't because I was freakishly skilled. I wasn't all that skilled. As an amateur boxer, I just had that grit and I had that non-stop determination and tenacity. But that's again in the pursuit of a goal. So I had a worthy goal that I pursued. So what I'm, so again, it's really about aiming high and going for it. Again, I had the MGB seminars. Mitch Bean would say, he'd say, aim big, because the big goals will happen. You'll achieve the big goals. You want the small goals. Well, why don't you with the small goals? Well, you don't, because you don't care enough about them. It's like I did, because I wanted to be world champion. So I cared so much about being world champion that it just became such a passion and such a love that I went all in to do it. So I do genuinely think that if you set a goal, you get there. People, and I know a boxer that used to say, my goal is to fight for a world title or something. Actually, I know two guys that said, my goal is to fight for a world championship someday. And they did fight for it, but they didn't win it because they weren't specific on, my goal is to fight the world championship and win it. My goal is to be world champion, is what you'd want to say. And even by the thought of saying it alone and writing the goals, write it up, and then go backwards, reverse engineer what you need to do to come from that. What do you need to do? Where do you need to be? What do you need to do? And that'll actually bring you to the step-by-step what you need to do daily to get to where you need to be. But if you can keep your mind on that exact goal and be very specific with it, then I think that you can get there. And I think that's very, very, it's just that people need to actually literally, don't be afraid to dream big and go after it. And you've got a lot more chance of living a happy life and getting there than you do if you just aim low and get there, because you're not inspired to hit low goals, so.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, it's almost a perfect point to wrap up on. It's something that I've had a conversation with a lot of my athletes and a lot of my younger team coming up that want to compete, that want to do things, is we call it your social narrative theory. Is essentially the story that you tell of yourself impacts how you view things. If you are walking around saying, life is hard and I'm a victim and everything sucks, it's out to get me and slow me down, and the life is terrible, the government hates me, whatever it is you want to say, that is how you start to act and how you carry yourself. It's what you start to do. But if you start to, look at your situation or the way you describe yourself to friends and family or the way you talk in scenarios, like really sit back and assess that. Am I talking in a positive, progressive, goal-orientated manner? Am I talking about the person I want to become, or am I talking about the person that I think I am, or, the person that struggles and has it hard and is a victim and life's out to get me? Because I guarantee you feel a fuck ton better when you go, I am an elite athlete, I just haven't got there yet. I'm an elite athlete that lives every single day as if I'm going to be a world boxing champion or a world bodybuilding champion or a national bodybuilding champion, or fucking running a successful CEO business, be a successful CEO and run a business. When you talk in that fashion as if it's already happened, yeah, some people might perceive it as arrogance, but what we know is you're creating internal language and narrative that you're going to act every single day in a manner that makes that goal inevitable.
Yeah,
It's now a matter of time, not a matter of if. It's just, we're going to create that. We call it the self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to make that happen because that's when I'm talking to reality and I'm acting in reality. You can live that miserable victimhood if you want to. You can say the life sucks and the world's hard. Maybe it is. But you know what? If you fucking wake up every day and say, I am an elite bodybuilder, I am an elite boxer, and I'm an elite business owner, I'm an elite husband or father or whatever it is you're trying to excel at, you talk that every single day and you live that, then it just becomes a matter of time before that thing happens.
That's it. I truly believe that. Yeah, that's it.
And that literally sums up your 160 amateur fights, 36 professional fights as a professional boxer, world title. Like, you've literally said it from day one, is that this is what I wanted to do. This is what I was endeavoring to achieve. When the time came to go professional, it was because I was ready to fight professionally and I wanted to take that risk and go all in and commit to fully this. Like, going across your entire story, it doesn't ever sound like there was an ulterior path. There was maybe a few
there wasn't,
but there was no I'll be a chippy and a boxer. I'll be a student and a boxer. You were a boxer who just did other things.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I never planned on going back to carpentry anyway. I said I wouldn't, even though, like I said at the start when I went into boxing, I was a qualified carpenter. So, my mom was happy. She'd done a good job. My mom and dad. The fact that I was a qualified carpenter, I'd always have that to fall back on. But that was never an option for me. It was never that. It was always all in. That's why when my friend sat down and said, you might want to have a think what you do about, after boxing. And I thought, that doesn't feel right for me. That doesn't feel good.
No.
I'm the world champion up here. You're basically saying you might have to live a life without being the world champion. I said, right, that's it. We're going again, and we're going to do it right. So, there was no plan B.
and that speaks volumes of itself. Like, to have people care, to sort of want to have that conversation with you. It's not from a place of negativity, but to them, they think they're caring. To you, you were like, I don't want to hear that. That's not yet. That's not me now. When the time comes to retire, and we'll kind of wrap up on this point here, but when the time comes to retire, it'll be your time to retire because you're done and there's nothing left to give. But for you to hear that interruption of your narrative and the story you've been telling, the story you're telling is that I don't stop until I'm done and I'm going to be world number one. Now I'm world number one. I'm going to keep being world number one and get better at being world number one. And when the day comes that stops being, great. That'll be your time to decide, but you're not letting other people come in and tell your story.
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. And I'll finish on this. For me, it's about just now, like I said, going after the rest of the belts and doing everything I can and just making a great story, because like I said, my why is to be the greatest and best version of myself, inspire others to do the same. And I really enjoy I'm really looking forward to my career as a public speaker, and again, living my why, trying to inspire many, many people to do the same, to be their best selves, and again, not be afraid to go after that. So thank you very much, Ben.
Mate, I appreciate your time. Usually I would ask a question of, what would be one piece of advice, but we've given fucking 200 in this conversation. I think we've done plenty of that.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah,
no,
we sure have.
I genuinely, mate, I know we've been trying to tee up this chat for a long time, and you probably appreciate that not everyone looks at you as like this world tier. I can't have a conversation with you kind of guy. Like, to me, you're the guy who came in and we just chat shop and business and boxing and you just trying to get better. And, I look at you as someone who's achieved their goals, their dreams, and it's something I'm passionate about and I get excited about, as you can probably tell with us rambling for an hour and a half. But to give me your time in a position that you're in, I genuinely can't express my gratitude for you being able to jump on and join with for this amount of time.
No, it's a pleasure. Look, I highly respect what you do with Matter, and you as a bodybuilder. I will let you in a little secret. When I'm finished boxing, I would like to get into weight, strength, a little bit of bodybuilding. I probably won't do any competitions or anything like that. I don't think I've got the genetics for it anyway, but I love lifting weights and I love getting stronger. And I love even getting on the aerodyne, having a hit session. I love that feeling I get, you know, from tearing the muscle fiber and going hard, giving the body a workout. So I'm looking forward to seeing what bit of muscle gain I can sort of amass after my boxing is done, and I know that will
We'll tee up
help
some
keep me
sessions.
fit and healthy. Yeah, we will. Yeah, we should do for sure. Yeah, I'll be asking for your advice.
Oh, mate, don't
Yeah.
worry. You get plenty of that. You get plenty of that. Mate, again, thank you for your time. I think that's pretty much the perfect place for us to leave it. But yeah, where can we find you? How can we follow along on the adventure and what's left to come?
Dennis Hogan on Facebook. You'll see the verified page there, and then on Instagram you'll find Dennis Hogan Boxing is my Instagram page. I'm on Twitter there as well. Type in Dennis Hogan, you'll find it. Yeah, look, other than that,
Actually, we got wait. Hang on. We got one more piece, just one more thing to touch on, because I don't want anyone leaving this without knowing you have a title, you have a belt defense coming up.
oh
Wait,
yeah.
we can't leave that out.
Well, here I'll just tell you. For the last 12 years, I visualized people were talking about fighting in Ireland. I said I won't fight in Ireland until I have a world title belt. And and now 5 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now we leave, but 5 weeks from now I'll fight in Dublin's Tree Arena. There's been no big time boxing in the Republic of Ireland in 15 years, and now I get to go back and have my homecoming in the Tree Arena on the card with Katie Taylor, who's the #1 female fighter in the world. I'm #1 Irish pound for pound fighter in the world. I'm still ranked on the Irish rankings, and she's the #1 female of all females. And we're going to go back and fight in Dublin, May 20th. It will be live on the Zone on Matchroom, but I think Fox Sports here in Australia will pick it up. And I'm gonna live. I visualized this so many times, nearly every day for the last like 12 years, and now I'm finally going to get to live that out. And it's going to be another massive box ticked dream come true, and have a great win as well. You know, so.
Mate, congratulations on all the success and everything you're yet to achieve, because I know it's going to keep coming. So no doubt looking forward to seeing some more exciting things from the Hurricane. But again, good luck. And we know it's going to be a win. So appreciate your time and good luck with camp.
Thank you, brother. All the best. We'll chat again soon.